I did want to tell you a funny story about our vacation to Oregon and Vancouver, Washington for the Thanksgiving holidays. All three of our kids live out in the Pacific Northwest, out in the Oregon area. And and as does my mother-in-law and brother-in-law and sister-in-law. And so, we went out there for Thanksgiving. And we were staying with one of our kids who lives in Vancouver, which is in Washington State, which is where pot is legal. Now, let me give you just a little backstory for this kind of interesting. I'm telling you the story, A, because, it's an interesting anecdote and it's kind of funny. But B, there is an issue here that I think more Americans need to know about. And I was pleasantly surprised last night to see Sanjay Gupta do a two-part, and I guess there's more to come, series on this on CNN on medical marijuana. So, we go to Washington State, Louise and I, and, we both have our aches and pains, right? She's got some stuff left over from her chemo that is painful, and I've got stuff left over from having broken my back when I was 20 years old, which is, painful, and it sometimes wakes you up in the middle of the night, or makes it hard to get to sleep. So anyhow, we're in Washington State, and we were visiting Louise's mom, who is in her early 80s and just sharp as a tack, and just a wonderful person. And Louise and I decided that we were going to go to the pot store. I mean, hey, it's legal here. And so Grandma said, "Oh, I'd like to go too." So the three of us, me and Louise and her mom, two boomers and Grandma, went to the pot store. And interestingly, my son, I have this. I wrote a novel. I wrote a series of 5 novels about a private detective by the name of Oakley Tyler, and the fifth one, the first 4 were never published. I mean, it's Arthur C. Clarke said your first 1,000,000 words are practice, and they really are. You learn how to write by writing. And the 5th novel, I think, is pretty good, and it's coming out actually in about 2 weeks. It's called Death in the Pines. And it's a novel. I wrote it over a decade ago. I cleaned it up and did some editing on it. If I was going to rewrite it now, there's a couple of characters I'd want to strengthen. I can see the problems with it, but on the other hand, I think it's an okay book. But in order to learn how to write about a private detective, I found a private detective, DeWitt Wanamaker, and he took me under his arm, and I went on stakeouts with him, and he got me into the Georgia Police Academy. It was the year that the Olympics were in Washington, or in Atlanta. We were living in Atlanta. And I went, DeWitt and I went through this the course at the police academy so that you could be security for the Olympics. It was the first time they'd ever opened it up in the 134-year history to civilians. So I was one of the first civilian graduates of a course in the Georgia Police Academy. And I got a certificate for the wall, and I got my private detective's license. And the house that we sold in Oregon, the woman that bought it from us, found my detective badge. On the floor behind a wall or something, and she gave it to my son, and my son gave it to me, and I stuck it in my pocket. And I used to have a whole folder that, holds it in place and everything. So I've got this gold shield that says Hartmann Detective, Nova, Georgia, state of Georgia seal on it. I've got this badge in my pocket. And I forgot I even had it in my pocket, right? Justin gave it to me, I stuck it in my pocket. So we go to the pot store, and the guy's out in front, they got to check your ID before you come in. And so he looks at Grandma's ID and he looks at Louise's ID. And I reach into my pocket to pull out my, credit cards and a driver's license. And there's this badge on top. And I said, oops. And I grabbed it and I stuck it in my left pocket. And his eyes got kind of large. And then I sorted through and I pulled out my driver's license and I showed it to him. And it's a DC driver's license. Now, pot is illegal at the federal level. And it's the feds who have the ability to, technically and legally, to shut down a pot store, whatever. Or not even technically, there's federal laws against pot. But he let us in. He didn't say, "Are you a federal officer or something?" Or, what's the deal? DC driver's license badge? He didn't say anything. I didn't say anything, but he got really chatty. He was like, "Hey, how's Thanksgiving?" And in fact, as we walked through he was chatting. He was nervously chatting with me through the whole thing. So anyhow, we went in there and they showed us all the different kind of pot that they had. They had like two or three pages in this book of different blends. And they were all tested by a lab to have either high levels of tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, which is the stuff that gets you high, or the cannabidols. And I'm sure I'm mispronouncing this, and I don't know this science particularly well, but it's the CBD, I believe it is, and which is the stuff that they're using for Charlotte's Web. It's the stuff that prevents seizures in little kids. It is not a head high. It's more of it affects your body. And they had one particular brand there that was like 20% CBD, only 10% THC. And so we tried that out. We bought some. And that night before we went to sleep, Louise and I smoked a little bit of this stuff. And it was amazing. It was like just feeling it was the way that when you watch the movies, you think, if you're a little kid, you think that, a cocktail must be like that. It was relaxing, and all the pain in my back went away, all the pain in her leg went away, and we slept like babies all night long. It was amazing. So anyhow, that's my pot story. But the second part of the pot story, and then we'll get back to the Michael Brown thing. The second part of the pot story is that this stuff is medicine. And I am so pleased to see that they're starting to do good research on this. This was part of the show I saw. We got home last night around 8 o'clock and watched these specials on CNN that Sanjay Gupta did. And they're starting to do like really good science on the difference between THC and the CBD, if I'm remembering it correctly. And how, the former gets you high, and that may be very useful for things like PTSD. The latter heals, apparently, the body. This is like medication. So I'm really looking forward to the rest of the country figuring this out, because I think there's a lot of people who could use this. Hang on.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
The number of people who die from prescription painkillers because they're in pain is huge, and they really should be using medical marijuana.